Want to talk about a new movie? Check. Want to talk about an older movie similar or related to that new movie?
Check.
That's what you can expect from Quality Check Podcast.
It's a new podcast on the Studio DNA network, hosted by yours truly, Drew Douglas and
Daniel Posey. Every other Tuesday, we'll talk about a new movie and an old movie to see how the film's quality holds up.
Welcome everybody to episode 16 of Disney Plus Reviews. I'm one of your co-hosts, Phil Souza, and I'm here with my co-host, my good friend, and the man who's always ready to say, let's get down to business. It's Jack Altermat. What's going on, Jack?
Not a lot. I feel like Eddie Murphy in this movie, this was a good audition for him to play Donkey.
I was going to say the same thing. Okay, so we're talking about Mulan, the original 1998 Mulan movie. I had the exact same thought. Like from the first statement out of Mushu's mouth, I was like, "Wait a second! I forgot that was Eddie Murphy."
It's Donkey.
And then the entire rest of the movie, I just heard Donkey the entire time.
And this thing did pretty well at the box office. I mean, enough to where it's somewhat beloved, and they're going to make a new live action. Which before we started recording, we were talking about how this is probably the best looking of all the live action, and has the potential to be something kind of different than the original, which I think is going to be pretty cool. So
I'm going to look up the director and kind of the stats on the new 2020 Mulan. So they're making this is one of whatever 7 or 8 movies at this point now that have been kind of remade into live action that Disney's been doing over the last couple of years. Director is Nikki Caro, female
when
director.
I'm in my caro, I drive it real far.
Are you familiar with Nikki Caro?
I'm sure if I knew the hits. What are the hits of Nikki Caro?
So far, before this, she did The Zookeeper's Wife in 2017. I've not seen that. Actually, looking at over her list, I've not seen any of them. McFarlane USA, A Heavenly Vintage, North Country, and Whale Rider. I've not even heard of some of those movies, actually.
But this is going to be a good one for her because check it out. It's Mulan.
I literally just watched the full-length trailer right before we hit record, and I had not seen the full trailer. I saw the commercial during the Super Bowl that they aired, the 30-second trailer, whatever, during the Super Bowl. But I had not seen the full 2.5-minute trailer. Dude, I was blown away.
It looks really, really good.
It looks so good.
Last thing on Nikki Caro, the only thing that even remotely comes up, she directed one episode of Anne with an E, for anyone that maybe has a wife that watches things like this. My wife watches that show.
What is that?
It's Anne of Green Gables.
Oh, okay.
It's a remake into a series.
Okay.
And Anne with an E. That's literally the only thing I've ever heard of that this person has done.
Some other
maybe McFarlane
kind
USA?
of big names that are being brought to the 2020 Mulan is Jet Li is the Emperor of China, which is very interesting to me.
Does he get his groove back?
Jet Li?
Sorry, you said the Emperor.
Oh, the Emperor. Yeah, no.
Sorry, continue.
It is interesting to me that Jet Li is old enough to play the Emperor at this point, by the way. The father, I recognized, is he the...
Donnie Yen?
Yeah. Is he the Seinfeld guy?
I don't know. I mean, here's Donnie Yen.
Oh, what role does he play?
I don't know. His name was on the list. Let's find out.
Oh, Commander Tong is what it says.
Okay.
No, Mulan's father, which in the original movie, he's just references Fa whatever, like the patron of the family.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I recognized him. But a lot of new faces, and the action looks really good. Like I told you this Jack, actually when we were watching the Super Bowl, but it kind of reminds me of Assassin's Creed a little bit. Like there's some wall running, there's some parkour type of stuff, and then it's martial arts, very very obviously heavily martial arts influence, from the great kung fu movies of the last 4 or 5 decades.
There's a video game series that my brother-in-law Clay introduced me to called Dynasty Warriors.
Okay, I've not played those,
and it's obviously not that, but like when I watch that trailer, or even when I watch this movie, like I'm like, oh, okay, I can see where someone would watch or play that game and then be like, maybe the Mulan movie can have somewhat of a. This sounds really stupid when I say this, like it could look like that kind of graphic fighting type thing, because it actually does look pretty cool. Like the new one looks really good, and I like the message behind the 1998 one that we're going to talk about today, because it's definitely a step out into the into a different realm for Disney.
And
Eddie
there's
Murphy.
a whole new character in this trailer that doesn't ever appear in the original movie. I'm sure there's probably maybe several new characters in the movie that's being remade, but one of them is like kind of a right hand man to Shan Yu, the main bad guy in the movie.
Okay.
And she's in the trailer. She's mentioned to be a witch.
Oh.
And on the Wikipedia page, it says she has shape-shifting abilities. So I think
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it sounds like the new movie is going to introduce some more supernatural elements that we maybe didn't see from the first movie.
Other than the
original.
other than the tiny talking dragon.
Yeah, but they had to see. They're not going to do Mushu, I'm assuming, in this movie.
So does that
they have to replace it with some other supernatural stuff? I'm guessing.
Does that new character then replace what was the henchman guy? That was kind of the guy. He's the Seinfeld table for 4 guy.
Yeah, that's the father. That
what's the henchman guy? What's the? It's not the father. Like his.
Are you talking about the 1988 movie?
Yeah, the 1998 movie.
I don't know.
I'm gonna find it. Gotta find it.
Look it up. I haven't actually looked at the cast at all for the 1998 movie. But let's get into it. We'll kind of kick this. We kind of got off on an early tangent there. That's fine. But if you're just joining us for the podcast, we are an unofficial Disney Plus podcast. We review the most popular stuff on Disney Plus. Most recently, we've just been kind of picking out different movies and franchises. We did a whole episode on Pixar. We did a whole episode on MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe. The first 10 episodes of our show, we did reviewed each and every episode of The Mandalorian. Starting next week, we're gonna be covering every episode of The Clone Wars until that season is over. So I think at least probably 12 to 14 episodes of that, which will take us into the summer, or at least the beginning of the summer. And so this is kind of the last week. We're kind of in between Star Wars stuff right now, and so. With the new Mulan movie coming out in March, I believe it's March 27th is when it's coming out. So pretty soon by the time you're listening to this, if you're listening to it as these episodes release, it's coming out in about 5 or 6 weeks. And so we're gearing up for that and getting excited about it. I don't know about you, Jack, but I had not seen the original movie since 1998. That was the last time that I had actually watched the animated
I've only seen
movie.
it once, and I don't know that I really watched it hardcore when I watched it the first time.
The original?
Yeah, and like...
So you didn't see it in theaters then?
Oh, no. I definitely saw it on VHS or DVD or something.
Right. Yeah, very well could have been VHS
somewhere in the last 22 years or whatever it has been since this came out. So
I'm almost positive I saw it in theaters. Probably took my then girlfriend at the time to go see it. That's definitely a movie she would have wanted to see in theaters. My guess is we probably saw it in theaters, and then I've never seen it since. And honestly, we'll get into our reviews of the movie. It's not because it's not a great movie. I just, for whatever reason, just never came back around to it. And I've mentioned my daughter several times on the show, especially because she is such a Disney freak. But she's 3.5, has not seen Mulan yet. I don't know if we'll show it to her anytime soon. The violence part of it is the only part that kind of gives me a little bit of pause. I think the message of the movie is really great, especially for girls to watch. But I don't know. She has seen the Kung Fu Panda movies, which I think are probably just as violent as this one. There's
I'd say so.
There's a couple dire scenes where, like, you really think that the characters are going to die. Like, it looks like death is coming for them.
Yeah.
And I worry about how she might react to some of that stuff. But I think probably within the next 6 months or so, we'll probably show it to her. And I think she'll really like this one. So
I couldn't get Miller to sit down and actually watch this for the long term with me. He's 9. He didn't really. He just wasn't that interested in it, which is interesting.
This time around.
Yeah, he definitely wasn't. Well, I mean, I don't know these. I asked him, "Have you seen this movie before?" And he goes, "No, not like just parts of it."
Yeah.
And so then, like 20 minutes into it, he's like, "I'm gonna go play."
Okay.
Oh, sounds good. See you later.
Let me respond to that with one comment I was going to bring up later. As far as like, okay, so there are 11 Disney princesses. I don't know if you've been privy to this information.
No, I've not.
there's 11 like official
Is Ray
from Disney. No, there's all these stipulations, and if we're really bored at the end of the episode, we can look into all the different criteria that you have to meet in order to become, like, for whatever reason, Anna is not a Disney princess because she doesn't meet all the criteria. Anyway, we can get into that later if you want. But
whatever.
Yeah, you don't seem interested.
Nah.
There are 11 Disney princesses that are officially sanctioned by Disney. Mulan is one of them. Of the 11 Disney princesses, and we can kind of look at the list later if you want. She is this movie I think is by far the least princessy. Like it's maybe that in Brave. Brave is also kind of like that. So Merida also is a princess. Merida is very rough and tumble and don't mess with me. Mulan obviously, because of the whole nature of this film is also very similar to that as well. So
Chai Fu is played by James. Chi Fu is played by James Hong. That is the Seinfeld Table for Four people. Go ahead.
Okay, gotcha. And he's not in this.
The reboot,
the remake, right?
Okay, and so that's telling me then that person you're saying, the sidekick type person, will take a kind of a place of that. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay. I think because of just the nature of this movie and what Mulan is being asked to do, there is a romantic element to the movie, but it's very relegated to the background and really doesn't even take place in the first 2/3 of the movie. And you compare that to like other Disney princess movies like Cinderella or Snow White or Sleeping Beauty, which we watched Sleeping Beauty this week. Those movies are very, I don't want to come across, pig-headed or whatever, but they're very feminine. They're very, damsel in distress. It's all about the romance. It's all about the I want to be a wife type of thing. And this movie is not. It
drives the entire story.
Yeah, and this is not that at all. And I feel like it might have actually been kind of the first one ever, like the first Disney princess movie that kind of pushed that a little bit of like, okay, these girls don't have to, these princesses don't have to be helpless. And we'll kind of talk about that as we go through the movie, I think. But
cool.
So like before this, it would have been Jasmine. I think would have been the previous princess before this, and Jasmine certainly not completely helpless, but definitely needs saving. And Aladdin is obviously the hero of that story. So, it's an interesting turn I think that they made with this movie. But anyway, we'll get into we'll go through kind of a recap, and then I've got some just kind of overall thoughts that we can kind of maybe discuss at the end. I want to kind of get some of your guys some of your ideas as far as how you approach it in 2020, like our current mindset and all that. But let's kind of get into the recap. So the very first scene in this movie that we see is the Great Wall of China. And let me start out by saying this. I one of the things I really loved about watching this movie, let me put all my cards out on the table. I loved this movie.
Wow.
I loved it. Like I would go back. I would go back and watch it in another couple weeks with Jordan if she wanted to watch it.
Yeah, I'm sure she would.
I would watch all of it.
Yeah, if she would like to watch it, I could see doing that. So.
Yeah. As like going through the list of like all the other Disney princess movies, this is easily top 3, like out of 11 for me as far as like movies I'd want to go back and watch.
I think because why you hit on it, basically what you said earlier about it. Its story doesn't revolve around some basic tenets of, oh, here she is. She ate a poison apple and someone's got to save her. Like she's able to save herself. In fact, she basically helps win the war, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, this movie doesn't have any fairies in it. It doesn't have any princesses in it.
It does have Eddie Murphy as a dragon.
It doesn't really have magic per se. I mean, there are supernatural things that happen.
It's the ancestor stuff.
But there's not like someone with wands like turning things into animals and stuff like that. It's most of the movie is very wartime. Like it's very aggressive and lives are on the line like the entire film. So I feel like as far as a princess movie goes, like this is maybe one of the more accessible ones for guys. I think girls will maybe gravitate towards some of the other ones, perhaps. But I think for guys, like Mulan, as far as princess movies go, I think Mulan is going to be an easy one to recommend. As
good as it can be for, I guess maybe I say the Disney princess, an animated Disney movie, because I mean I don't know. I guess it is a princess movie, but she is. But I also am. I think it's separate in its own category a little bit.
Yeah,
like it fits more into regular Disney stuff, or I don't know how to explain it, but
yeah. So I'll just kind of quickly go beat by beat. We don't have to spend a ton of the episode doing this, but if I hit on something and you want to talk about it or give your reaction to it, just don't be afraid to stop me. But starts out with the Great Wall of China. Shan Yu is actually the first, or Shan Yu, I think, is
Shan Yu.
Shan Yu is the first character that we see. He scales the Great Wall of China. Immediately the lantern or whatever is lit. The Huns have crossed our border. It's from the very beginning, like, okay, this is going to be a war type movie. Mm-hmm. They're calling up reserves and recruits to fight for the Chinese and to repel back the Huns. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember. I think it's maybe the Emperor that says this, but he says one man can turn the tides of war. Obviously, setting up what is going to happen with Mulan later. Mulan. There's not a lot of, in my opinion, Mushu is clearly the lighthearted, comic relief in this movie.
Disney always felt like, especially at this time, felt like they needed a comedy relief character.
Yeah.
And it's been that way. Even if you look at Frozen, Josh Gad's character, Olaf, is that comedy relief. They have to have it.
Yeah, that's true.
The horse in... Is there a horse? Yeah. What's his face's horse in... Horse Entangled.
Yeah.
Isn't there another horse in Frozen though too? What's the animal in Frozen?
No, it's a reindeer.
A reindeer. There you go.
Yeah, Sven.
I knew it was Hoven character.
Yeah.
And then what else am I'm thinking of another. I'm blanking on another horse. Maybe not. Anyway, there's always got to be a comedy relief, because there's a horse in this movie too.
Yeah.
And you know who plays the voice of the horse? Who does the sounds of the horse?
In this movie?
Frank Weller. And Frank Weller is the voice of Fred from Scooby-Doo. And has been the voice of Fred from Scooby-Doo forever. Anyway, there you go.
I was really expecting you to say Scooby-Doo in Scooby-Doo.
No, Fred.
Just
really
Fred.
Weird.
Okay.
Yeah, anyway, go ahead.
However, there's I think a pretty funny comic relief kind of scene. The way we were introduced to Mulan is basically that she's this klutz. Like she is supposed to be this prim and proper, girl that is basically just good enough to be a wife someday. Like just, we're going to put a ton of makeup on you, dress you up all pretty and nice, and hopefully some guy.
You're a woman. At some point, someone makes that comment. You're a woman.
Yeah.
This is all you're good for. It's looking pretty. One of
the things I loved about this movie is, why I think it sells so well in what they were going for as far as the theme of this movie, which is that women can be powerful and be the hero. Like it doesn't have to be guys all the time. The fact that they chose China, and I'm sure I don't know if this is based on a true story, but like I'm sure that this is folklore of some kind in some realms of China, but like. The fact that they chose like one of the countries on Earth, as even in the 90s, that is just well known for how they treat women and how they are literally like subservient to men in almost every respect.
Yeah, I mean, is
beautiful to me.
It would be the equivalent, almost not quite, but it would be almost the equivalent of doing this about Saudi Arabia or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and they could have picked a lot of Asian or Middle Eastern countries to sell this point home. Right. But the fact that it takes place in that kind of a country, I think, makes it even more poignant. And so, we kind of see her, she's supposed to be this perfect princess kind of character, kind of like all the other Disney princesses, and she's just not. I mean, that's not her personality. That's not her, just her natural born persona. And so they, mom and dad are praying hard, like, hopefully she can get through this day, this matchmaker day. And I think just the whole matchmaker scene, she literally ends up setting her on fire at one point, and then ends up dousing the fire with hot tea, like just pours scalding hot tea over her to put it out and stuff like that. And then, the matchmaker saying, you may look like a bride, but you will never bring your family honor. Like it's just this perfect scene of setup of who is this girl, and she's clearly not going to be what everyone expects her to be. And that sets up all kinds of great themes later. But the way that they did it in a very funny way, I think was just an absolute perfect introduction to her character. So, and again, both of us, neither one of us had seen this in forever. I had not seen this since it first came out. 22 years ago is when this movie came out.
Jeez.
Which is hard to believe it's been that long. Yeah. And I literally could not tell you any one scene before going to see this movie. Like I didn't remember any
I just remember Eddie Murphy's character. Like that's literally the only thing I could remember. And I knew the story. I knew that Mulan disguises herself as a man.
Right.
So she can enter the war. And then I knew that the dragon was involved somehow.
Yeah, see, I didn't even remember the dragon character. I literally remembered. It was basically like seeing it for the first time this week, as far as what I remembered. So I did remember that she, obviously dresses like a man and fights, but that was about all I could really tell you. So there's I thought the music in this movie is really good too. I'm honestly going to be really positive on the film overall with just about every aspect of it. But there's a very ethnic, very Chinese sounding song during this whole like introduction bit. Yeah. I don't know what the name of it is, but I just wrote down "Honor to Us All." It has that refrain over and over again, so it's probably called something like that. Fun song. I loved the way that was sung, the way that it was sung by women about women in Chinese culture, and I thought it was just a really good intro to the movie.
Jerry Goldsmith, talking about the music while you're talking about that. Jerry Goldsmith does is a composer, conductor on this, and man, he's done all kinds of stuff. Star Trek, the motion picture. He's done The Omen, Planet of the Apes, Rudy, Air Force One, Hoosiers. He's done a ton of. He's done Jurassic Park, Lost World.
Okay.
So he's done a ton of. He's just a big time name. Jerry. Well, he's passed away now, but Jerry Goldsmith did a ton of work on music like that. So
okay,
there he is.
Yeah, he's
Jerry Goldsmith.
He's a big one.
An American treasure.
I looked it up. It is called "Honor to Us All." So that's what happens there. And then there's a beautiful song. By the way, I did not. These songs are not singable like. I don't know, like basically every other Disney movie. Like I think probably there are some girls out there that love this movie and they have every word to every song memorized. So, I'm just saying that those people are probably few and far between compared to other
Disney movies.
Like you compare it to like Let It Go or like some of the other huge hits that Disney's had.
Right.
This movie, I mean, maybe the biggest hit in this movie is the Let's Get Down to the Business song, which is not sung by Mulan. Like Mulan, I think maybe has like one or two lines in it.
Right.
It's primarily sung by Li Shang, who's the kind of the main male role. But she has a song that she sings called Reflection that I think is absolutely gorgeous. And it takes place... I think it's either right before she decides to go into battle in her father's stead, or it's immediately following the events of the matchmaker thing. But it's a kind of a sad kind of self-reflecting kind of song. No pun intended. The song's called Reflection, where she's kind of looking intrinsically into herself and. Basically, the point of the song is if I'm going to be myself, if I'm going to be my natural self, I'll bring my family disgrace. And then as she's singing it, she's talking about it too. She's looking into a mirror. She's saying, I don't recognize this person. She wipes off the makeup because, that's not her, that kind of thing. I thought it was a gorgeous song. And it's a song that I literally never hear anyone singing. Like you're never going to hear that song at the next karaoke night or whatever. It's not a Disney hit, but it was beautiful.
And let me say this: do you feel like the cultural stuff? It's a different culture. Their songs need to reflect that culture,
Yeah.
And they also need to reflect it in a way that's respectful.
Right.
But that culture is different, and their songs are going to be different. So you've got to be respectful. So you can't make it as sing-alongable at times, maybe.
Right.
I could see that being the case.
Yeah.
I mean, and I was going to talk about this later too, but you look at the cast even, down to the cast, they pretty much stuck to Asian or Asian American cast people. I mean, there's some outliers there.
I mean, good on them for doing that.
Very good they did that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like in the 80s, if they'd done this in the 80s,
Yeah.
they would have been like, and here's, it would have been, and Eddie Murphy's Eddie Murphy, so that's fine. He can be the cartoon character, that's fine.
Right.
But they would have done, I don't know, pick some random whitewash scenario
yeah.
or like just who knows what. Like just throw it in there, and then they would have been doing some horrible fake Chinese accent thing and it would have been like god awful and scary.
That's essentially what they did with Aladdin, right? Like I think those characters were not Middle Eastern for the most part.
Right, and they kind of came back around a little bit in the newer one. At least it seems like that was the case.
They were like, okay, we're going to make good on that and actually cast Arabian looking people.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, this movie came out just a few years after Aladdin, and they did it right as far as the casting.
Right. Well, it just would have been a fine line there if they're doing some really bad Asian accents, and it would have been bad
news. Yeah. Excuse me. I do still have kind of a cold, so I apologize if you're listening to this and I sound like crap.
Fine. It's fine.
So the next thing that happens is, the Fa family, the Mulan's last name is Fa, basically it's F-A, and they are visited for recruits. Mulan doesn't have any brothers. Her father didn't have any sons, and so her father, I guess, is relegated to fill that task, which is crazy to me. Like I'm sure that was a thing, in whatever century. I think they said 14th century.
Okay.
China or some, or maybe no. I'm sorry, I'm pulling that from Sleeping Beauty. I watched Sleeping Beauty and Mulan back to back this week, and so they're kind of like some of the points are.
Han Dynasty was 206 BC to 220 AD.
Okay,
so that's a long time ago.
2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess back then, even if you were, I mean, Mulan is 16 in this movie. I don't think they mentioned that, but I think that's like a historic record for this movie is she's 16. My guess is her dad is he looks like he's in his 50s, but I'm guessing he's in his 40s.
Right.
Perhaps maybe they had trouble having a child or something.
But even then, it's, he's too old to be.
And he's sick. Like I think he actually kind of looks like not well. Like he's even for a 40 something, we're in our 40s. He looks like he has less strength than we do. Like
right.
He's been the victim of some kind of sickness. Illness.
Yeah.
So I'll be interested to see how they treat that with the new movie, because there's actually a scene in the trailer for the. Now I'm talking about the 2020 movie where her dad tries to even pick up a sword and his arm is like shaking as he's like lifting the sword.
Yeah.
So I think they didn't delve deep into it in the original movie. Maybe they'll talk about it more in the 2020 remake, but he's going to go to war to defend, for his family's honor and defend China. And so obviously she says, no, I'm not going to let him do that. There's just the big cutting off my hair scene, and she's going to basically become a man, like kind of look like a man, and basically pose herself as her father's only son, the son that no one ever knew that he had.
Right. Right.
So there's a great line from her father at this point where he says, the wife is talking to him and she's like, you can't let her do this. Like, you can't let her go. And he says, she says, if you let her go, she'll be killed. And he says, if I reveal her, she will be.
Yes.
And that, again, goes to the culture and what they would have done to any woman that would have tried to enter into any kind of war.
Right.
They really saw it as a threat to their honor. And the word honor is uttered like probably 24 times in this movie. But it is, you dishonor us, you dishonor the real heroes of this war by entering the war as a woman.
Right.
So, I mean, basically it would have been, they even use the phrase high treason, which is crazy to me. But I mean, that's their culture. So I'm not going to pass judgment, but like that they would actually consider it to be treason. And of course, in most cultures, the result of treason is death. So, and then enter Mushu, who is basically one of the family guardians. The most supernatural that this movie gets is there's almost kind of like a Force ghost kind of scene. So these are Star Wars.
Granny has a connection to the ancestors. Granny then essentially activates the ancestors at some level.
Okay.
And then Mushu shows up and he's a dragon. And they were going to send a dragon, but he somehow... And why is it that he is the dragon that's available? Weren't they going to send a full-size regular dragon? What happened?
Yeah, they're gonna send a full dragon, and they send Mushu. Basically, Mushu's just kind of their page. So they send Mushu out to get him, like to go retrieve the real dragon and come back. And in going to activate that dragon statue, he ends up like lacerating the head off of it.
Yes,
the head goes rolling, and as opposed to like he knows he's dead, obviously, if he admits that he killed this thing, and so instead of that, he's like, yeah, I'm here, like he's like holding the head up and as a puppet type of thing. So yeah, he basically decides to go in this other dragon's stead just so he doesn't have to admit that he did this dirty deed.
There you go. There you go.
So
and let the comedy ensue.
Yeah. So all the ancestors are there, kind of like Force ghosts, just kind of talking about Mulan and how disappointed they are in her and how she's going to bring dishonor to the entire family. And Mushu basically, in order to cover up the Great Stone Dragon, scene, he says, "I'm going to go," and he goes with this cricket, which the cricket is like, I thought the cricket was going to be a bigger character in the movie, but it's because like this lucky cricket that Mulan carries around.
Yeah, in a little cage.
Yeah, and they become the duo that basically kind of protects Mulan throughout the rest of the movie.
Right.
But like the cricket doesn't say anything. Like it doesn't have any English lines.
No, the cricket just added comedy relief. Groot to
that's a good
to Rocket Raccoon's character, but not even that strong, obviously.
Yeah.
Just kind of a bonus character.
Yeah.
Some comedy relief earlier in the Matchmaker's tea. It ends up in the tea, ends up down her shirt.
Oh, yeah. And
then that's about it on that. So.
Yeah. Yeah, so obviously it's going to be Mushu that's going to be kind of protecting her. She immediately meets him, I think, in the very next scene, and she says, "My ancestors sent a little lizard to help me." And then Mushu ends up basically trying to teach her how to be a man. And I think a lot of the comedy relief is kind of him just being, attempting to be a helper, but not actually being able to achieve that.
Yeah.
And there's like in the very first scenes where you see the two of them interacting, he's basically like telling her to do all of it, like the biggest stereotypical like man things, like things that like girls assume that guys do, like in locker rooms or whatever.
Because he doesn't know either, because he's a servant dragon. Basically. Yeah, he doesn't know any better.
So he even tells her to punch a dude because he says, quote, "That's how men say hi." But yeah, it's there's a little bit of comedy here and there. This is not a comedic movie, I think.
I think that the seriousness of the role she's taking on, and that she's in a war, and that she you can only do so much comedy in this situation, whereas in like Tangled, or you can do a lot more comedy in. I name you another good example of a Disney movie along those lines. I mean. There are just certain ones that you can do more comedy in than others, and this isn't one of them. And I doubt that will there be any comedy in the 2021? I
doubt it. That's a great question. Without Mushu, I would say almost certainly not, unless they replace Mushu with some kind of human character that is really funny.
Good luck.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that just the set piece of the movie itself doesn't lend itself to comedy very well. There's certainly been comedic movies around war, you think of like a Mel Brooks type of situation or something like that, but they're not going to do that with Mulan. So yeah, I would think that this remake is probably very serious compared to the original movie.
There is basically back to the source material. There's the Ballad of Mulan, which is a Chinese folklore that this is all based on.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. I just assumed that, but I didn't look it up.
And I don't think that Mushu will be in the new one.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think they've already confirmed that. There's another character that I read called Phoenix or something like that, and they're wondering if maybe that's going to be a replacement for Mushu, but I don't know anything about the Phoenix in the...
Now, Jun Yu is doing the voice of Crikey, who is the pet cricket.
Okay. It's almost certainly going to be just like insect sounds and stuff though, right?
Yeah, I just don't know.
I doubt it's like a speaking character, especially since in the original he's not a speaking character.
We shall see.
So anyway, she, makes it to this company, this troupe of warriors, and is trying to, fit in and kind of pose herself as a man. She says her name is Ping instead of Mulan. And I think it's very interesting. I think it helps the story a lot that the rest of the jokers that she's around are just a bunch of idiots. Like that they're not. These are other recruits. I'm assuming that they don't look fit at all.
Yeah, they've been thrown together. The general's son is in charge of them. Yeah, and basically he's got to whip them into shape. But they are definitely not top notch. Yeah. Elite soldiers.
Yeah, Li Shang has definitely got the short stick here. He's pretty hard on them from the very beginning and says, I'm going to whip you into shape pretty hard. And then that's when the Let's Get Down to Business song occurs. Mm-hmm. I've heard this song several times since seeing the movie, but out of context, I didn't understand where the song was going to be. I thought maybe it was going to be later in the film. Mm-hmm. I was surprised to see it. Like it's literally in the first 25 minutes of the movie. And it's basically it acts like a montage kind of song. So during this 3.5 minute song or whatever, they are basically getting whipped into shape. And by the end of the song, that 3.5 minutes, they are now, adequate warriors. Maybe not the best that the army has to show, but can definitely get the job done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. And then there's a scene right after that. The skinny dipping scene is what I'm calling this.
Man.
It is a little weird.
Disney, Aladdin does this. Some other Disney movies do this where they feel like this is a necessary thing. But I guess that the context that Mulan is a man, and back in this time they would have bathed in the river or wherever they were bathing in.
Yeah.
And so the men would bathe together. And so she's got to try to find a way to avoid bathing with them.
Yeah.
So they won't find out that she's a woman.
Yeah, she goes and she bathes at like in the middle of the night and she thinks she's going to be the only one out there. And then all of a sudden like these other three idiots come and like just jump in with her and obviously they don't know any different. They think she's a guy just like them. And so they're like, "Hey, hang out, don't leave, hang out with us or whatever." And Mushu does some kind of distraction thing and she ends up being able to get out.
Mushu acts like a snake, basically.
Yeah. He bites one of them.
Yeah, bites one of them on the booty. So
that's right. Yeah.
Which is really funny because he's brushing his teeth later with toothpaste and a regular
He's like, "You owe me big."
Dumb.
But so, yeah. And then the next scene after that is the Emperor's council man, which I guess is, other than obviously the big bad in Shan Yu, is kind of like the bad guy, like on their side of the battle, the war. He's constantly trying to belittle them, and towards the end of the movie, he's trying to actually get them to ditch Mulan entirely. So he's not a bad guy, but he's definitely kind of the one that everyone kind of needs to look out for. But he says that they're looking pitiful, that they won't see battle, that Li Shang is not fit to be captain. And then Mushu does this, I don't know what you call it. He basically kind of takes like a scarecrow type false, it looks like a person, but it's not real, and animates it and talks for it and basically makes it look like, this robed scarecrow is a real person and is delivering this letter to this councilman, and that's how they're convinced to they're needed at the front. So like, even though these guys are like not even the B team, like they're the C team of warriors, that they need to actually go to the front. And I was a little confused as to Mushu's motivation in this movie, because I feel like at the beginning of the movie the ancestors are wanting to recall her, like they were actually saying like, you need to go get her and bring her back home. Like, and without seeing any battle.
Then he's like, I want to prove that she can do this.
Yeah, I that was not clear to me, and that was one of the weirdest things in the movie. I didn't understand what his motivation was for doing the things that he was doing, because I'm pretty sure it was against their wishes, but we're only left to guess, I think, as to why he was doing it. And I think it probably was that just to prove that he is a worthwhile family guardian, that he can actually help her achieve her goals or something. I don't know. I feel like they definitely could have doubled down on that a little bit more. And I'm interested to see how they handle that in the new movie, especially since Mushu's completely absent from the plot.
Right.
They start walking to the front lines of the battle. There's another song here, "A Girl Worth Fighting For." I think it's maybe one of the weaker songs in the movie. Basically, the basis for the song is that they're waiting for us on the other side of this war is a girl to come home to, and I think it's maybe supposed to be kind of a double meaning with, Mulan is obviously a girl worth fighting for and stuff like that, but I think it's a little shallow. And I think the song is just okay as far as how it sings.
Did you know that the reception of Mulan in China was not very good?
Oh, really?
Yeah, they did not. It made like almost no money.
Even though this is folklore for them?
They don't like it. They didn't think it was enough. They also didn't think she looked too foreign.
Like not Chinese?
Yeah, she did not look Chinese.
Huh.
And it didn't reflect their stories.
Okay. Like they had changed too much of the story?
Yeah. And just it didn't fit in. And the government, it took like a year. It was released and then released in the U.S. and then a year later it came out in Mulan. Or in Mulan? In China. Mulan came out in China. Anyway, interesting.
So, it was borderline offensive to
they didn't
them.
Like
sounds
it.
like it.
They didn't like it at all. So
yeah.
Anyway, but they eventually released it and no one watched it.
Well, big surprise that Disney would take a well-known story and change it.
but not only that, like the Chinese market, you know who is banked, and this is a segue to something completely different, but like, the Transformers franchise has just made bukus bucks, like bucks in China.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
And it's like, there's a lot of money to be made there, but anyway.
Huh.
In 1998, I'm not sure how open they were to American things, but I think they're more so now.
Yeah.
I think the people do have more freedom there now than they have. They're still not free, but
come April, I will be very interested to see how China is reacting to the remake.
Yeah, I don't
movie. Because it to me it looks like something they would be proud of.
There's 2 billion people in China, so they look at it and go, well, I mean, if a small percentage of them watch this, we're going to make a lot of money off of it. So.
Yeah, it's almost certainly going to release there. I would assume.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, you think so, but who knows? We shall see.
And as far as like it's interesting that they didn't think Mulan looked Chinese. I think from I'm certainly not Chinese, but
who knows?
To me she looks very Chinese,
right?
The way that they drew her. But this girl that is playing Mulan in the new movie definitely looks Chinese. So yeah. I don't think they'd be able to say that the second time around.
Right.
So Li Shang finds out that his father's been killed in battle. There's kind of a somber moment there. Then they move on. They get attacked while on the road. Kind of one of the biggest fight scenes in the movie is this one here. So they're kind of like in this valley. If you haven't seen the movie, it's kind of hard to explain, but they're kind of like at this low point, and up above them is like the peak of the mountain. And at the peak, they have the high ground. The Huns start like firing arrows down on them, and it looks like there's just a few of them, and there's just a massive amount of Huns. And so it's like, okay, this is it. Like, there's no way they're going to survive this. This is probably the scene that would be hard for Jordan to watch, I think, just because it's man versus man. I think it's a little different when it's like animals. Like Kung Fu Panda is not meant to look real in any way, but this is like actual humans trying to kill other humans.
Right.
So I think this would be the scene that would be kind of hard for her as a 3-year-old. But the army comes down off the mountain. The animation here looks so real. The way that those horses are just cascading down this mountain. There's literally thousands of them on screen. Hundreds of them, but seemingly thousands that are coming down all at the same time. And I thought the animation looked really good. Mulan, they start firing some cannons at them. They kill a lot of them. Then there's like ants that there's more that just come out and they start attacking again with a second wave that's even bigger than the first wave. And Mulan takes the final cannon that they have. And instead of firing at Shan Yu and the army, she fires it at the top of the mountain, which I thought that was really interesting diversion. I didn't expect it to go that way. The avalanche basically comes down and sweeps the army away, basically burying them in snow. And in the process, like right before I think they got covered in snow, Shan Yu actually wounds her with his sword, which ends up being a pretty key plot point. And Mulan and Li Shang kind of escape, narrowly kind of missing the avalanche and the rest of their team. And then another key line, Li Shang looks at Mulan and says, "Ping, you are the craziest man I've ever met. I owe you my life." And we need that line because of what happens next.
Yes.
So she actually collapses from her wounds at that point. Like they've won the battle, but basically because of Ping, because of Mulan. And but because of her wounds, she collapses to the ground, and they have to undress her. They obviously don't show that, but they take off her clothing so that she can her body can be dressed with bandages. And they find out, obviously, in that process, she's a woman. The law says it's high treason and must be killed, but Li Shang says he can't do it, and mainly because of that oath that he just uttered. He's like, "I owe you my life."
Yes.
And then he says, "A life for a life. My debt is repaid. Move out." And he basically ditches her there in the snow. Like he's like, "Okay, I'm not going to kill you because you just saved my life. So now we're even, and I'm out of here. Good luck, fending for yourself out here." So, and then I wrote down this line. There's a lot of great lines, I think, in this movie. I think they're worth repeating. This one, there's this kind of somber, serious moment between her and Mushu. And she looks at him and she's kind of reflecting on her decision to go into war. And she says, I wrote it down word for word. It says, "Maybe I didn't go for my father. Maybe what I wanted was to prove that I could do things right. So that when I looked in the mirror, I'd see someone worthwhile. But I was wrong. I see nothing."
Wow.
Yeah, and I was like I rewound and watched that. I mean, I wrote it down word for word. Obviously, I think I watched it 2 or 3 times. I was like, man, this came out of that line came out of a 1998 animated Disney princess movie.
Serious stuff.
Yeah, and I hope they bring some of those lines to the. I think the new movies,
they will. They surely will.
The new
right?
movie is going to have just as good writing, maybe even better than the original movie. But the writing in this movie is so good, and it delivered some really punctual, serious, like thought-provoking stuff that I was just not prepared for going into this movie. So we find out that Shan Yu isn't dead. He pulls himself out of the snow, kind of Thanos style, sticking out of the snow. Some of his biggest brute friends are alive too. Mulan basically is obviously the only one to witness this, and she has to warn the men. So Li Shang and his men are in a parade. She shows up, tries to warn Li Shang. Li Shang wants to hear nothing about it. He doesn't believe her. The bad guys pop out at the end of the parade and actually attack the Emperor directly. So this is setting up the end of the movie.
Yes. They capture him.
Yeah, they're actually inside the palace.
Take him to the palace. And then she did something in this. It was really funny to me that characters in movies do. And it was really funny because she's like, "I have an idea." And then she just runs off. In real life, if you and me and other people were in a group and we were trying to figure something out, we're at the river and we've got to cross the river or we got to figure it out. And you go, "I have an idea." And you just run off. And without saying, "Follow me," or without...
Right.
But these people, they followed her.
Yeah.
Anyway, in real life, it's not how that works.
I did...
Follow me. Just say, "Follow me," Mulan.
Yeah. I do love that she's with this band of misfits, that she's been fighting alongside. That, like, probably most, like, actual warriors
the one guy,
wouldn't
the big guy,
give her a second thought.
What's the really big guy? His song about the things he loves is food. "I'm looking for a wife that can cook for me."
Yeah.
And make me all kinds of delicious dishes.
During A Girl Worth Fighting For, he's talking about food, yeah.
Yes. It's so funny. She's a great cook. She'll be a great cook.
Yeah.
That's the woman for me.
I really love these characters, these little side characters. They're not given a lot of lines, but they're really funny.
Right.
They're very kind of pigeonholy, that he's obviously the tough one. He's the fat one.
There's some stereotypes of a band of misfits type scenario, but yeah, you're right.
But yeah, they follow her without question. Li Shang obviously is not easily swayed. She dresses them up like women, which I thought that was really an interesting twist that I didn't see coming at the end. So the men dress up like women at the end, which gets them in close enough to then obviously throw away their fans and their dresses and kick everyone's butt. Li Shang goes in to save the emperor. Mulan helps the emperor get away while Li Shang fights Shan Yu, but is ultimately defeated by Shan Yu. He at one point holds up a dagger and he just has nothing left. Then we see this cool kind of flip it around move with her fan. Like there's a point where there's really only one scene where it's like hand-to-hand fighting between Shan Yu and Mulan.
Yeah.
And I think they'll do this up a lot bigger in the remake. I think they're going to actually, from the trailer alone, it looks like they're going to make her like a legit fighter. Like I think you're going to see a lot of martial arts scenes of like, 2 or 3 minute long hand-to-hand combat scenes with Mulan. Right. In this one, there's not a lot of hand-to-hand combat. This is a 1998 animated Disney picture, so it's not going to be heavy on the violence.
Right.
But there is a part where they're kind of fighting on a rooftop, this real iconic, kung fu type scene, and Shan Yu thrusts her sword at her directly, like just straight into her, and she catches it with her fan and like flips his sword around and then catches it and like launches into this like kung fu stance with his own sword. And I thought that was pretty cool to watch. So she basically she's not going to overpower this guy because he's literally like 3 times the size of her.
Right.
But she can hold him down long enough for Mushu to light a firecracker and basically send him flying off the roof into a tower of firecrackers. Right. And the whole thing blows up, and obviously he's dead from all that. So at the very end, the emperor bows to Mulan, which that was, I think, you're probably going to think I'm a girl for saying this, but when in the moment where the emperor in solemn, like just quietude, like just bows to Mulan, like bows to this 16-year-old girl. I definitely didn't cry, but I definitely like got a little emotional like in that moment, because I was just like, man, the power of that moment of like him saying, "Me and my entire empire bow to you," this 16-year-old teenage girl. I thought it was really powerful. So he bows, which leads the rest of the army to bow, which leads everyone that's in the palace within the palace, garden walls or whatever, to bow as well. So like literally the entire kingdom is bowing to Mulan. I just thought it was really powerful to watch. Cool. The emperor tries to give her the high council job, like say, hey, you can replace his job, but she decides to go back home instead. She gets Shan Yu's sword, which I thought was really cool, and takes that back to her father. And then Mushu's actually made an actual guardian, like a real guardian, at the end of the movie.
Mushu.
So that's kind of a, I don't know, what was that, about 25 minute recap? What are your general thoughts about the movie?
Oh, I think that the source material, I think my favorite thing about the thing is that the source material is going to be pretty good for a live action movie. As far as an animated movie, and I've told you this before, like me and Disney animated stuff, it's not like my favorite of all time.
Right.
Like the Pixar stuff, I definitely like a lot more than the animated stuff. But I also am like, I appreciate the most about this movie is the culture and how they try to at least stay within. They try to stay within the culture of without it whitewashing and trying to be that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like I feel like Hollywood for a long time just said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to totally pay honor to Asians, and we're gonna, what we're going to do? We're going to make a movie. It's going to be called Mulan, and you know what we're going to do? We're going to cast Tom Cruise as the last samurai. You know what I'm saying? Like this weird, like
yeah. I forgot about that.
Why? And actually, I say that about Last Samurai. I may be missing a story there. There may have been a literal colonial white person that went to that to Japan.
I've heard that it was
wherever.
Based on a true story, but again, they changed a lot of the details.
Like this weird like thing where like, well, it's like it's this weird thing where, and I was actually talking during the Oscar party, like the Oscar get together. We were talking about. I was talking to who was I talking to? I was talking to somebody about Tubman, Harriet Tubman movie, and how initially, like in the 90s, there was this story of like there was a producer that wanted to pitch Julia Roberts as Harriet Tubman. And that's a real thing that's been said, that there's a real person, and they don't name the producer, but like it's a story that's where you go, wow, like, okay, I appreciate what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
But why would you do that?
Yeah. How do you, so you're Julia Roberts. How do you react to that?
I'm sure she said no. If she was intelligent, she goes, why would I do that?
She clearly did, but like, I don't even know how I would even start to say no.
It's weird
to that. Like,
it's really weird.
I'd be like, is this real? It's like,
just
you really want me to play?
Well, I mean, you go back to Hollywood, olden times when African American actors weren't allowed to do things, and they would have blackface and they would have all these things, and you're like, why? Like, I don't understand. And that's just the class of people. Like, they treated people as second class citizens. Yeah, and it just to me is hilariously stupid. Like, it's not funny. It's hilariously insane that anyone would think that makes sense. And so I was glad. Like, you look at the cast list on this movie, it's important. Like, it's a big deal. And there's no need in this day and age to not think that way. And we'd be like, let's make it a movie. Let's make Red Tails about the Tuskegee Airmen, which they did. They had, African Americans. But let's have, Robert Downey Jr. Wait a minute. He did that in Tropic Thunder.
Yeah,
Never mind.
He did.
Like, which is like this weird,
it's totally played off for comedy, obviously. But
even then, you couldn't do that now. No. And that wasn't that long ago. Tropic Thunder wasn't that long ago.
No.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, it would be like, this is weird to me.
That's why it's so fascinating to me that the Chinese reacted in 1998 the way that they did to this movie, because I feel like Disney, I mean, especially for the late 90s, like, really handled this with gravitas that I thought would have impressed them.
But then that adds, I think, another aspect to it that just shows you, like, the Chinese, they're not, that if they don't like it and they don't think that that they're not going to play a game with you, because their government runs the people's lives. Like, it's not like the people even, like, they released it after a year of, basically vetting it. And then who knows if they ever even let it be a full release, or if it released to 3 or 4 theaters. You wouldn't know. Like 1998 China, you wouldn't know. So, I mean, it's just weird.
I'll be fascinated to see how this new one does, knowing that.
I mean, you even look at Hong Kong, like we talk about this, like Hong Kong, there's a bunch of protests that have been going on in Hong Kong. They're still going on because they really want freedom, because for 100 years they were separate from China. And then in 1997, basically that's when, actually no, wasn't the new year? I feel like it was the new year of 2000 or whatever, 99, is when China basically became back into the property of Hong Kong, became back into the property basically of China. And it's been not so good ever since, because they had freedom. Yeah. And it's like the colonies, like the colonies, like the 13 colonies. Like, you had freedom and you don't. China's not like, I don't know. Like, they've never had, like, maybe at some point in their run, they've had actual freedom, or they've never had, women's rights, or they've never had things like that. So, I don't know. There's no wonder that the coronavirus is, like, they're like, well, this is the number, and the actual number probably is higher.
Right.
Because they control all the aspects of things coming out of that country. Yeah. So, I don't know. That's not really neither here nor there, but I was glad on Mulan that they were trying to, they had the cast that was reflective of the culture, at least somewhat. I mean, at least it seems like it was. So. Yeah,
I didn't hear. I mean, maybe I just wasn't listening hard enough, but I didn't hear any like person trying to put on a Chinese accent.
No, and that would be stupid. Like when I saw Frank Welker's name on there, I was like, oh no, I didn't realize that. Like, it's Fred from Scooby Doo. Like, dude. I don't want him making a joke. I don't even want to make a joke. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I could make some stupid, Asian accent, and no one like that.
No, so. I felt like it sounded authentic to me. Like, the people that were speaking actually had that natural accent.
I mean, Pat Morita was in there. I mean, I don't know that Pat Morita. I mean, you know who Pat Morita is?
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know that he. What's his nationality even?
And honestly, like a lot of these people had lived in the United States for a long time since, and maybe had never lived in China.
Pat Morita's never lived. I mean, he's from California originally, but he's an Asian American.
But had probably been around his parents that maybe had a strong Chinese accent, knows how to do it authentically, as opposed to just like making up something that he tried to learn.
It's true that.
I said this before, that I think the animation is absolutely gorgeous in this movie. I think you compare it to even movies that were around it at that time. Emperor's New Groove is pretty close to it. I think it came out maybe a year or two or 3 years after this movie. Aladdin came out several years before it. I think it's just as good, maybe even better than some of those, especially some of the army versus army huge battle scenes in this movie. I think are gorgeous.
Yeah, how hard that would be to animate that. Without, I mean, even computers, like even use CGI. Like if you think about the battle scenes in the Lord of the Rings movies, and how those were animated the way they were. I'm assuming it was hand drawn. I mean, did they use computers on this?
I don't think so.
No.
I mean, it looks traditional.
It does look like when it popped up. I think, and that may have honestly, like this can sound stupid. That may be one reason my son was like, because like it doesn't look the same as Pixar. It doesn't look the same as more modern animation type things. So.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So yeah, I thought it looked great. I thought the music, even the soundtrack music, I mean, you talked about Jerry Goldsmith, but the soundtrack, just the background's music as just lines are being spoken, I thought was really stirring and really moving stuff. So a lot of strings, really, really good stuff. I thought Eddie Murphy was good. He's always good, I think, in anything. I did hear Donkey from Shrek the entire time, unfortunately.
I mean, what else is he going to do?
But this movie came out before Shrek, so it's probably not fair to make that comparison now.
When you see Donkey, or when you hear Donkey, you should hear Mushu.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, there were, 5 Shrek movies? So, I think it's just impossible to, now with a 2020 lens, to go back on that movie and not hear Donkey.
Right.
There's a lot of really good, I think, again, some of the best writing I think I've seen in any Disney animated movie, period. There's even the play on words that they make in the movie on both sides of the gender equation. I think is really good. Like there are scenes where the guys are calling other guys weak by calling them girls. He's like, "Hello, girls," or whatever, or "Step it up, girls."
Right. Yeah.
And just the intention, very obviously very intentional play on words of doing it, of using that kind of moniker in that moment. I think is just a crazy interesting spin. I think on what else could have been going on.
Right.
I thought the movie is surprisingly revealing about the reality of war and the sacrifices. These people are literally giving their lives for their families. It doesn't hold back on any of that information. It is. There's a moment that kind of skipped over when the big battle scene with the avalanche and everything like that. That it's looking dire. It looks like they should just run and just get out of Dodge, just to see if they can escape this. Sure death is coming for them. Yeah. And Li Shang turns to his men and says, if we die with honor, and he just goes charging right into the battle. Right. And I love that stuff exists in what is otherwise a kid's movie, for little girls to watch or whatever. Yeah. So I just really appreciated that stuff. And I guess my only negative with the movie that I wrote down was there is romantic stuff that happens at the end of the movie, which I think you almost have to have that if you're going to do Disney princess thing.
Right, I agree.
But although I say that, Brave, Merida doesn't have a suitor at all in Brave. But other than that, I think at that time it was expected that Mulan is supposed to, meet this Prince Charming.
Well, the movie is set up with her. She's different, so she may not meet someone like that. So that's just how we're going to do that. So.
Yeah, it did start out as though she maybe didn't need a man or wasn't going to get somebody or whatever. And then literally Li Shang finds out that she's a man one day, and then the very next day, 24 hours later, he's pursuing her. And so, but for the past 3 or 4 months, he's just assumed she's a dude.
Think of the qualities, though. He appreciates her qualities, how hard of a worker. She's very intelligent.
She's a good fighter.
She's a great fighter. And now he finds out, my gosh.
She's a woman.
She's a very attractive, I'm assuming, very attractive animated woman.
Yeah.
So he has to pursue her.
He has no choice.
He has no choice in the matter.
I felt like it was a little forced at the end, just very, very, very quick. Almost, it felt almost cursory. Like we have to do this.
Yeah.
It's Disney
it's a
law.
box you got to check off. And in Disney, that's one of the boxes.
So, other than that, though, I absolutely love the movie. So let me run down the list for you real quick. So here are the 11 Disney princesses officially sanctioned by Disney.
Okay.
Snow White, Cinderella. Some of these are very old movies. Aurora, Sleeping Beauty.
Yes.
Ariel, obviously from Little Mermaid. Belle from Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty.
Jasmine from Aladdin, which we've talked about her quite a bit on the podcast. Pocahontas, which I've not That's another one where I've seen it once, like when it first came out. I just don't remember anything from it.
Yeah.
Mulan.
Mm-hmm.
Tiana, I've legit never seen The Princess and the Frog.
I have not either.
Yeah, I've never seen that movie. I'd like to, but I just haven't at this point. Rapunzel from Tangled, Merida from Brave, which is the single Pixar movie on the list, and Moana, is the most recent one. Of those 11, my favorite movie, I think it would be really hard for anything to dethrone this ever, in my opinion, is Rapunzel. I
would agree with that.
I love Tangled.
I would agree with that. I think then, in my eyes, and I think maybe it's just because they're newer, followed by Moana, because Moana is very entertaining.
Yeah, Moana's great.
But you're right about Brave is rewind. Rapunzel, very hard to not give that one the green light. So, what's the one from Brave?
Merida.
Merida's great as well.
Yeah.
And then I didn't know who's Sleeping Beauty is called Aurora.
Aurora is her name. Yeah.
Do they say that in Sleeping Beauty?
Yeah, it's actually one of the first lines in the movie.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I literally just watched Sleeping Beauty like 3 or 4 days ago, because Jordan really wanted to watch it. She had never seen it. So that movie is terrible.
Yeah. They're just movies are made differently then, and animated movies are really made differently then.
Yeah.
Like the expectation was so low for like old animation Snow White. For that, I mean, it's weird to think about, but like,
that's probably that. Honestly, Sleeping Beauty is probably bottom of my list as far as movies I would go back and watch.
A lot of those I'm just not.
Jordan's 3 and she could barely hold it together to watch that movie. She just was not interested. The movie is not good. It's that movie is only interesting because of Maleficent.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna watch Maleficent, just watch the remake movies that they've done.
Yeah, and even that, like, they're just made differently then, and they're sleepy. I mean, it's a tired kind of, okay.
And she's not really given much to do. Or like Aurora, you want to talk about an antithesis to Mulan. Yeah. Or anything, or even Moana or Merida, modern princesses. Yeah. Or Anna and Elsa. I mean, they're not, actual princesses, but like these girls are given more to do now. You go back to watch the original Snow White or Sleeping Beauty, or honestly even Cinderella, and they are not really given a whole lot. Like the story kind of revolves around them, like they're like the center of the motion, but they're kind of the eye of the storm, and all the interesting stuff is happening around them. Sleeping Beauty is one of the worst when it comes to that kind of thing. So as far as movies that I love, I'm not talking about the princess, just the movie as a whole. I would say probably Tangled is number one. Honestly, I might put Moana as number 2 just because that movie's hilarious and great. I think I honestly, Aladdin used to be my favorite Disney movie, period. And I honestly might put Mulan ahead of it now. I liked Mulan that much. I might put Mulan as my 3rd.
Wow.
As far as movies
I really am. I'm telling you, I'm going to watch Mulan in theater when it comes out, the new 2020.
It looks so good.
So
yeah, I can't wait. I'm honestly interested to see how the new movie will color people's opinions of the original movie. I think that exact same thing happened with Aladdin when it came out. For better or worse, it happened with Lion King when Lion King came out. These movies are going to affect the way that you even watch the original movie.
Right.
And so it'll be very interesting. I'm glad we did this and actually watched the 98 movie, because I hadn't seen that movie since it first came out. I didn't remember any of it. Now I actually have some kind of basis foundation to
and a context for what I'm even watching, and the thing is like you said, if the new one's good, you probably won't even go back and watch the old ones ever.
I think they'll definitely clarify. The Aladdin remake did a really good job of clarifying some of the things that didn't make sense from the original movie, or things that weren't fully fleshed out from the original movie. And I feel like Mulan is about to do that, maybe even more so than the other remakes that they've done. So I'm tentatively very excited about this directorial debut. I've not seen her work in anything else, so
that worries me though more than anything. Now I'm kind of like, well, I hope this works out.
It just depends. Like she's done enough movies that she knows how to direct a film.
Yeah, but do you know how to direct an action movie? Because it's kind of like, that's what I feel like.
Exactly.
Going to be a lot of, it should be a gigantic, like the filming probably took place in a very large open scenario. So, I mean, should be filming outdoors.
It just depends on how much you lean on your like choreographers and people that know that stuff better than you.
Right.
Just to say, hey, look, I'm taking a back seat to you at
what
this
they
point.
do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm very excited to see it. So have you been watching anything else? I've mentioned Sleeping Beauty already.
Well, new to streaming on Disney Plus, I believe, Phil, for your purposes, Black Panther.
Oh, is it on there now?
I think it is.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I saw a thing online. Let's double check. Black Panther on Disney Plus.
This is my chance.
This is your chance.
My time to shine.
On Disney Plus.
So this was not a obviously like a timed release. It was some kind of a.
Well, they ran the contract or whatever.
They had a contract that
Let's
they had.
see what happens when we look it up.
That sounds about right. I thought it said February last time I looked at it.
Plus in March.
Oh, in March. Okay.
March.
So it's coming up.
March, I believe.
Cool.
This is from the website techradar.com.
I will definitely be watching it when it releases
it
soon.
looks like it is coming in March.
Cool.
Okay.
Have you watched anything this week?
I've watched a few things. Let me think about what I've watched, though. Now I'm blanking. What did Miller watch the other day? We were sitting there watching. I've forgotten.
Television show?
What was it on there, though? I've forgotten what it was. Crapo.
That's fine.
Tell me yours, because I know I watched something.
Well, literally the only thing I watched this week besides, more Star Wars. So I'm still trying to tear through Clone
Which
Wars.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I believe it or not, I still haven't finished season 3. I got sick. I got really, really sick.
Yeah,
this
you were
week.
very sick.
So I was out 3 or 4 days.
Yeah,
this
you
week.
were down and out. So.
So I didn't feel like watching anything, to be honest. I just felt like just sleeping all day and taking care of Jordan and my wife. But I didn't get to watch a lot of Clone Wars, but I did watch a few episodes. I continue to love Ahsoka. I think she's one of the best. Honestly,
she is.
She's one of my favorite characters in all Star Wars, period. She's just a really, really cool character.
My phone's being stupid now. So anyway.
So cannot in any way, shape, or form recommend Sleeping Beauty. Even if you have daughters, I can't recommend it to you. It's
Sleeping Beauty.
It is not a good movie.
Well,
so
that's a real bummer.
Yeah.
The damsel in distress is over. It's done.
This may surprise you, Jack, but of the 100, no, it's not even 100 minutes. That movie is probably 90 minutes long. Of that 90 minutes, Sleeping Beauty appears in the film as a on-screen character for probably about 20 minutes of it. I'm telling you that the movie's almost not even about her.
They call it Sleeping Beauty, but then they base it all around her. So.
Yeah, it is mostly about it. The movie could have been called Maleficent versus the witches or the fairies or whatever,
right?
Because it's mostly about Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather, which are like these pastel colored fairies, basically that basically raise Sleeping Beauty from the point she's a child,
right,
all the way up till she's 16. She's gonna prick her finger on a spinning wheel. It's really old stuff, and on her 16th birthday. And if she can somehow survive and not prick her finger, then she doesn't die. But then she obviously does do that. Maleficent finds her. She causes her to go to sleep, and then the prince wakes her up, and that is the entire plot of the movie.
Dude.
And it's a rough go, man. Like there are a whole probably 5 to 10 minute swaths of that movie that are about nothing. Like it doesn't project the plot at all. It's just about singing or about the animals that are frolicking around her. Or,
barf.
Yeah, it is a hard go.
I got
man.
barf on that one. I don't want to be part of that.
I definitely won't be watching that one anytime soon.
No, well, very good.
But so, all right, I think that's it for this episode of Disney Plus Reviews. Thanks for joining us every week, but especially this week as we talk about just a great movie. I'm really glad that I got to watch Mulan again, and I'm very excited for the new one. Starting next week, we are going to start. So every Friday, if you're listening to this and you're not aware, every Friday, I believe, is when they're going to be releasing new episodes of Star Wars: The Clone Wars Season 7. I failed to remember how many episodes there are in the season. I want to say there's 10 or 13 or something. It's not more than, I know there's not more than like 15 episodes. It's kind of a shortened season, which I'm totally fine with. I felt like The Mandalorian was just kind of that perfect length of, just kind of keep it around a dozen episodes. Tell the story you want to tell, but don't go crazy with it. So I'm glad they're doing kind of a shortened half season. And that's what we're going to get starting next Friday.
I'm going to make an announcement here before we get off here. We found out this week that we're going to do a panel at Planet Comic-Con.
Oh, yeah.
In Kansas City. The panel's going to be March 22nd.
Okay.
2:30. There'll be great giveaways. There's going to be lots of stuff. We're going to talk about Star Wars Clone Wars at this panel.
Yeah.
So if you're in Kansas City or you're in the Midwest and you want to travel to Planet Comic-Con and come to our panel, it's going to be phenomenal. What's the website for Planet Comic-Con? PlanetComicCon.com.
I'm sure that's what it is.
Is that the website?
Yeah.
Just Google search Planet Comic-Con. It's in Kansas City. March the 22nd. We're doing a panel at 2:30 p.m. And we'll give you some more information leading up to that.
Yeah, my guess is it'll be episode 5 at that point.
It's exciting.
That we'll be reviewing.
We'll talk about that
live.
And just talking about the show in general and Star Wars in general. I kind of like to just have even a Star Wars conversation would be fun.
Yeah.
And maybe get some audience participation and again free stuff. We're going to give away some free stuff.
Yeah. We can't guarantee that it's going to be awesome stuff that you want.
But there's a lot of random Star Wars stuff that's out cheap. I can find to give away.
Sweet.
Yeah,
you heard it here.
You heard it here first. So come on out. You'll be glad you did.
Yep. And then tune in next week for episode 1 of season 7. It's crazy that it's coming. So
Exciting.
we'll talk to you then.
Bye.